Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. A couple of days ago, Aptera put out this video, and we've seen these pictures from Jason Hill's LinkedIn page, but
Hey, Aptera fans.
it was good to see it here. And Steve Fambro is hosting this one.
Steve Fambro here with another monthly update. We've got incredible news to announce today. Thanks in part to our accelerator program, we recently began cutting the production tooling for Aptera's 6 main body structures with our world-class manufacturing partner, CPC Group, in their tooling facility in Modena, Italy. Production tooling in automotive manufacturing are the specifically and carefully designed tools that we'll use to forge vehicle parts. With CPC Group, we've cut several ton steel blocks that we'll use to make.
All right. So they have mentioned this a couple of times. They bought this steel 6 months ago, and they've started cutting it, and now you can see them cutting it here. And I think there's another picture of it. This is obviously one of the quarter panels. So if you look here, let's see. Did I go the wrong way? Yeah. So it's got to be this piece right here, and there's probably another similar piece for this. And so there's six total parts. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that's what they're talking about there. And so this is clearly this piece. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. This piece right here. But there's another piece I can't figure out what it is, and you'll see it later on in this video.
Your very own solar electric vehicles. And that's because.
And you can see this is right after they got done shaping it. There's all the little flecks from the CNC machine.
Of your belief and investment in Aptera. This process began over 6 months ago.
Okay, this is the piece I can't figure out. What is this piece? It looks symmetrical, like it's like a big McDonald's sign, like a big M, and I can't figure out which one of these pieces it would be. Yeah, maybe it's a door piece or one of the wheel fenders. If anyone has an idea what this is, let us all know in the comments, because I've been staring at this for a while and I have no clue what it is.
And it involves designing the parts and the tooling, machining that tooling, and then eventually operating the tooling and presses to forge Aptera's parts. Our partnership with CPC gives us control over the quality, functionality, and cost of the tooling because of their vertically integrated business strategy.
Okay, let's go back to this. So, obviously this is the big forge that they use. They have like a 100-ton press that presses down, and they put the chopped carbon fibers with the resin in there, and they push it into these the dies or molds, whatever you want to call them. Some people told me that the technically correct word is a die rather than a mold, but it presses the carbon fiber, and that's why they call it forged carbon fiber, because they're forging it in this thing. And has a cure time of about 2 minutes, and you can just like put it under extreme pressure, and it makes it into this. This is a giant piece of steel, and it takes probably a ton of money to make this tooling. I'm suspecting that CPC Group is investing in Aptera somewhat by saying we'll take on the cost of making these molds. That's complete speculation on my part, but I think my guess is that's what they're doing, is that they're kind of letting them, giving them a pass on the upfront die costs. But this puts into perspective the suggestion that a lot of people have of like, hey, Aptera just needs to get into production and hand build a few cars. The hand building a few cars just doesn't work with the way that Aptera is doing it. I think hand building a few cars worked initially when Aptera was using the sandwich core, and maybe they could make those bodies by hand, one at a time, using those like wooden jigs or something. But the biggest cost of making this car go into production is making these dies and then making these supply agreements for getting like tens of thousands of parts. They're going to need to make a specialized part for, obviously the Alafe motors are specialized, and Alafe has to deliver lots of them. Someone has to forge these control arms. Someone has to supply them the HVAC system. And even the gas struts in the back are specially designed for it. And so you have to tool all those up. and making like one of them is going to basically cost the same as making like 10,000 of them in a way, because much of the cost is upfront. Like once you get this die done, stamping out additional body parts, the body panels isn't going to cost that much more. It's this initial cost and the cost of getting the supply chain set up. And the same with these forged parts and all these things. So it's not like like building one is like 1% of the cost of building 100. Building the first one is probably like 90% of the cost of building the next, 100 of these. And every one that they build after that is incrementally less cost because there's so much upfront cost for these things. So that's why you can't make it one at a time. Making it one at a time just doesn't work because they've decided that they were going to make it a few at a time when they thought they were going to get like maybe 1,000 orders or a couple hundred orders, but now they realize they have 41,000 orders and they need to scale up, and they've been talking to suppliers that give them, 40,000 pieces, and those require a totally different supply chain and manufacturing technique, and over time it has higher upfront costs, but it's going to cost less per unit. And that's the way they decided to go, which makes sense. And I think Sandy Monroe's been a big driver of this. And so that's why you can't build one at a time. Okay, but very exciting to see these molds or dies um, being made. And so you know that they're spending tons of money doing this stuff. And CPC Group would not be investing this kind of money, or Aptera would not be investing this kind of money into building these giant pieces. Like just imagine how much steel this is. It's got to weigh like tons. And this is probably very high quality steel because it's got to withstand like the 150-ton press and be used over and over again to forge pieces of this forged carbon fiber again and again. And I'm guessing that this die is meant to last for decades, um, or hundreds of thousands of pieces. So they're definitely making investment. We see it physically here, and so they are on their way to production. They just need some extra money to get the rest of the parts made and pay their suppliers so they can get the pieces together. If they, once they get that, they can hand build parts. The things that they don't need if they want to go into small volume is like they probably can do it without those AGVs, and they can probably do it without a lot of the robots. But that's probably a smaller piece of the total cost of tooling up for production. So that they might as well spend the extra 10-15% to get all those things in line and then start going to volume production right away, which is their plan. Okay, well, for me it just became more real when you see these things being done. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks as always to our supporting members. Have a great day, everyone.